You already know what a solar setup looks like. A roof full of panels, a 5-figure quote, a contractor, a permit, and months of waiting. So here's the strange part. In Germany, more than 1 million households are running solar power right now without any of that, by hanging a panel on a balcony railing and plugging it straight into a normal wall socket, same socket you charge your phone in. And the moment you understand why that works, you can't unsee how strange it is that most of the world was never told. If you're the kind of person who likes knowing how things actually work underneath the marketing, you're going to enjoy where this goes. So stick around to the end, because the part about your electricity meter is genuinely hard to believe the first time you hear it. Let's start with the wall most people hit. Solar has been commercially sold for over 40 years, and in that time, the panels themselves got astonishingly cheap. The cost of photovoltaic solar dropped by 90% in the last decade alone, and yet a full rooftop installation in the United States still averages around $21,800. The panels are not what's expensive. The expensive part is everything bolted on around them. A licensed contractor, a structural engineer, a city permit, an interconnection agreement with your utility. Stack those up and the price can easily double. And that's only if you own your roof in the first place. If you rent, you have neither the permission nor any reason to install a system you'd leave behind when you move. That single bottleneck explains a number most people would never guess. Only about 7% of American homes have solar, which means 93% are still paying whatever the utility decides to charge, and those utilities are posting record profits while they do it. The technology got cheap years ago. The gatekeeping around it didn't. So how did Germany slip past the gate? Go back to the late 1970s, the height of the global oil crisis. German households have long paid some of the highest power prices in the developed world. By 2025, the average German rate sat just under 40 cents per kilowatt hour, roughly 2.5 times the American average of 17 cents. Then the 2022 energy shock hit Europe, and prices jumped more than 40% in 2 years. Faced with that, hundreds of thousands of ordinary Germans stopped waiting for permission. They bought cheap, pre-packaged solar kits from hardware stores, hung them off their apartment balconies, and plugged them into the outdoor outlet. They even gave it a name: Balkonkraftwerk, the balcony power plant. It grew so fast the government couldn't fight it, so it did the opposite. Under a national policy called Solar Paket, Germany reclassified these systems as ordinary consumer appliances, legally no different from plugging in a kettle or a fridge, and wrote a tenant's right to install one into law. By the start of 2025, over 1.25 million of them were running across the country, a whole second power grid, hanging off apartment railings. Now, the part I promised you. How does a panel plugged into a wall socket actually lower your bill when sockets are built to take power out, not push it back in? This is where it gets clever. Bolted to the back of the panel is a small device called a micro-inverter, and it does 2 jobs at once. First, it converts the panel's direct current into alternating current at exactly 60 Hz, the rhythm of the American grid, so your house can use it. Second, and this is the whole trick, it holds its own voltage, just 1 or 2 volts above the grid's standard 120. Electricity, like water, flows from higher pressure to lower pressure. By sitting a hair above grid pressure, the micro-inverter pushes its solar power into your home's wiring first, before the utility's power gets a chance. Anything running on that circuit drinks the free solar before it touches a single watt you'd pay for. If your fridge is pulling 200 watts and your panel is making 200 watts, the meter on the side of your house simply does not move. The power is real. The bill never sees it, and that matters more than it sounds, because a house is never actually off. Even when it looks empty, it's quietly drawing 200 to 400 watts around the clock, keeping the fridge cycling, the router on, the standby lights glowing on every TV and console. Plug-in solar is designed to swallow exactly that baseline load. No giant battery, no off-grid fantasy. just a steady erasing of the power you didn't even know you were always buying. If you've made it this far, you're clearly the type who'd rather understand the mechanism than just be sold the product. And that's exactly who this channel is for. If you want more of the hidden engineering behind the everyday things around you, the quiet machinery most people walk right past, this is the place to keep that habit fed. Now, you may have heard there are dangers, and there are two real concerns worth naming honestly. The first is grid islanding. The fear is that if a storm knocks out the utility and your panel keeps feeding power into the line, a repair worker could be electrocuted. The fix is built into every certified micro-inverter. It needs the utility's signal to function, and the instant that signal vanishes, it shuts itself off in under 20 milliseconds, faster than you can blink. The second concern is overcurrent. A standard 15-amp circuit is rated for 15 amps, and if the utility supplies 15, while the inverter injects 5 more from the other end, the wiring could quietly carry 20 without tripping the breaker, because the breaker only watches the utility side. Europe solved that with one rule. Cap these systems at 800 watts, about 3.5 amps, which sits comfortably inside the safety margin of ordinary household copper. Two real problems, both already engineered away. So what does it actually save? In Oakland, California, a pilot program called Bright Saver handed these kits to renters and retirees and tracked the results. People reported real bill cuts of $25 to $30 a month, month after month. Over a year, that's $300 to $360, paying the system off in about 2 years. A 4-panel kit modeled out to roughly $500 a year for a family of 4, and one early household watched the power they bought from the utility drop 22% in the very first week. There's even a hidden edge over a big rooftop array. When a rooftop system overproduces, the surplus gets sold back to the utility at 5 to 10 cents, then resold to your neighbor at 40. A plug-in system never overproduces. Every watt it makes is a watt you didn't have to buy at full price, which leaves the only hard question left. Can you legally run one where you live? In the US, the technology lagged Germany for one structural reason. There was no federal safety standard. Utah became the first state to create a real legal category for portable solar up to 1,200 watts, exempt it from utility red tape, and bar homeowners associations from forbidding it. Then in January 2026, a body called UL Solutions launched UL 3700, the first dedicated American safety standard for fully assembled plug-in systems, finally closing the loophole utilities had used to keep them out. After that, the dominoes fell. Maine passed its law in April 2026. Virginia followed. Colorado set the highest ceiling in the country at 1,920 watts. And on the 12th of May, Maryland's governor signed the Utility Relief Act. 5 states, with California's Plug into the Sun Act now moving through its legislature. So here's where it stands the day you're watching this. The hardware is legal to buy and own almost everywhere, especially any kit carrying that UL 3700 mark. What varies state by state is whether you're protected from your utility, your HOA, and your landlord when you plug it in. In the states that have acted, you're clear. In the ones that haven't, you're in a grey zone where the panel is legal, but the plugging in might quietly violate a local code. The single most useful thing you can do before buying anything is check 2 letters and 4 numbers. UL 3700, not the older UL 1741, which is for commercial rooftop gear, not the consumer kit you actually want. Here's the thread I'll leave you on. 1 million working systems in Germany and a string of American pilot programs all point to the same quiet result: $25 to $30 off the bill every month for the next 25 years, with no contractor and no signature from a utility executive. The engineering was solved a decade ago. The only thing still catching up is the law, and it's moving faster every month. So next time you walk past an apartment balcony and notice a flat black panel angled at the sun, you'll know exactly what it is. A power plant, hanging off a railing, plugged into a wall. If that's the kind of thing you wish more people understood, you already know the company you're in here. So stay with us for the next one.